Hey friends, Worm here. And today we are talking about exotic armor, and in my opinion, how they should change for the Titan subclass. So if you caught my YouTube video yesterday, you will have seen that basically exotic 3.0 needs to happen. We have too many exotics that are either way too niche or have little to no viability at all. So I figured we'd start on Titan and go through here and just talk about some changes to each of these sorry, to each of these exotics that could potentially help make them feel better or make them more usable. Of course, we have a lot to go over in here. So let's go ahead and get started with Insurmountable Skullfort. Now, Insurmountable Skullfort's exotic perk is Transfusion Matrix. Kills with arc melee abilities trigger health regeneration and restore melee ability energy. So I want to say right off the bat here, this is by no means a bad exotic. I don't think it's in need of a necessary buff or anything like that. And the whole point of this exotic is essentially to spam melee abilities. It's great at that. Arc melee abilities, I should say. Shoulder charge, ballistic slam, thunderclap, stuff like that. And it does that very, very well. But we don't see it up here very often in gameplay. So with this helmet, basically when you get an arc melee kill, you have to have a fully charged arc melee or have an arc buff like knockout. When you get a arc kill, it will instantly give you your melee ability back and you'll get health regeneration. Now this one, the power fantasy here is essentially become a punching god. Okay, and that's no secret about that. However, it doesn't see much play, and I think it doesn't see much play because there are just better options. We've got Heart of Inmost Light that can recharge our melee very quickly. We've got all kinds of elemental well builds that can, again, give us our melee charge back super fast. So with Insurmountable Skullfort, I reckon that probably one of the best changes that could potentially be made to this is a flat damage increaser to your arc melee ability damage. I think maybe like a 20% buff to specifically arc empowered melees. And I think that to make it more viable, it should give you 2 melee charges as well. This is it just I think that would suit it. I mean, it fits the role of the arc melee subclass or the arc melee ability genre, whatever you want to say. And I think that just building into that even more would be incredibly beneficial. Now this is one of those awkward ones where when you have arc elemental well builds, it kind of might void it out a little bit because it's like, oh well, I could use Heart of Inmost Light with 4 or 5 of the what are they called, or 4, I'm sorry, 4 of the elemental ordnance mods to get 40% of your grenade back almost instantly, and your melee too. I think the big thing about this as well is I think that instead of triggering health regeneration, it should do something similar to Karnstein armlets, and it should give you a big chunk of health and then like constant regeneration for a certain amount of time. I think that would help improve this helmet dramatically. In terms of its feeling of being an arc punching god essentially. But yeah, Insurmountable Skullfort, that's kind of that one. A Mask of the Quiet One. Okay, this is one that is really I don't remember the last time I've seen it. Okay, it has been out of the game for quite some time, and basically its exotic perk is Dreaded Visage. Grants ability energy when you are damaged. When critically wounded, regain maximum health on kills. Now, an important thing to note about Mask of the Quiet One here, and that last part, that regain maximum health on kills, it is not talking about like max health total. Okay, it's not talking about maximum shields and health, it's just max health. So basically, you know, when you're taking damage in Destiny and you get to the red bar and you start losing red bar health, kills with this exotic on will grant you full red bar health. Not full health, but full red bar health. Now, the whole in my opinion, the design around this exotic is, quite frankly, it's supposed to be one that encourages you to be damaged. You know, the lower your health gets, the more deadly you become. And I think that's an awesome ability to have. However, it needs some changes. So in terms of the ability energy when damaged, I know for a fact it doesn't give very much. It gives like maybe 5%. It's been a long time since I've used it, to be fair, but it doesn't give very much. It doesn't give very much energy, ability energy at all. So I think that starting out, I think that I would almost take away the grant ability energy when damaged, and I would say anytime you hit the red bar health with the cooldown, anytime you hit red bar, you get half of your abilities back. Okay, and I know that some people might see that as potentially being really bad. Hang on, let me change these settings here so we have some better graphics. There we go. But I think that, you know, it sounds incredibly powerful. But I think that would be a relatively normal balance for this helmet. It's think of something like what is it, the stag for Warlock, right? The stag on the Warlock does something similar. It gives you half of your rift energy whenever you are critically wounded. This, while it gives you more than just half of your whatever energy, your barricade energy, it gives you half of everything's energy. I think that would be a more appropriate change. I think maybe like have a cooldown of like, you know, 15-20 seconds in between activations of it. That way it doesn't get too busted. Because, you know, if you could, in theory, use Tommy's matchbook and just constantly be shooting, heal up, you know, 5% over red bar health, and then damage yourself again to get max ability energy, that would be kind of busted. But we need to gain more ability energy than what we have currently. And I think that if you're going to be living in critical condition, there needs to be a strong trade-off for having that happen. And hell, we know that Bungie can separate the difference between PvE and PvP, because I know that a lot of people be concerned about PvP, like, oh my gosh, like half energy on everything in PvP. I don't think it should apply like that in PvP. I'm thinking maybe 20% in PvP, again with the cooldown. But in PvE here, half energy, completely okay. Completely okay. But the next part here, when critically wounded, regain maximum health on kills. This is, again, I understand they want you to live in critical health with this, but the issue that I have is that critical health is so deadly, and in high level content you can't be walking around in red health. What I say is that they need to change when critically wounded, regain maximum health on kills. I say that when your shields break, as soon as your shields break, you get a 10 seconds of insanely high resilience, right? 10 seconds of, you know, damage of another 50% damage reduction. Think of something like what is it? Protective Light. I think that's what the mod was. Protective Lights in its old condition, when you hit red health, it would give you a timer on how long you could be injured for. Or not injured. It would say how long you'd have damage resistance. And I think that something similar for Mass of the Quiet One would be tremendously, tremendously good. And it would help it out a lot. But yeah, that's Mass of the Quiet One. This is one of the probably least used exotics in D2 for Titan. And again, we kind of see the reason why. But let's move on to the next one. Capris Horn. Okay, so Capris Horn. Basically, its exotic perk is Solar Rampart. Solar damage kills recharge your barricade. And when you activate your barricade, it unleashes a blast of solar energy. Now, the solar energy goes basically forward and then comes back to the barricade itself. This, again, not an awful helmet, but it just doesn't do enough. Okay. The first part here, solar damage kills recharge your barricade. That's convenience, but the barricade already has a very quick cooldown. I think that that's almost kind of gimmicky. Next part, of course, the barricade unleashes a blast of solar energy when summoned. Now, the solar energy itself, if I remember correctly, it's actually not too bad. The solar, the damage that it deals is pretty substantial, and it does synergize with Solar 3.0. So it can, it can spawn sunspots, for example. This one, though, I feel like it's just incredibly lackluster in that. I think what it should do is something similar to the Consecration melee, where if your barricade, it sends out that line of fire forward, that line of fire will scorch targets, and then when it comes back, any targets that are still in there get ignited. Okay, I think that would tremendously help this exotic. Or, it applies 50 scorch, per run, or 60 or something like that. That way, when it goes forward, hits them once, comes back, hits them again, they'll ignite. And I think that if you did that, you would see substantial play increase in this helmet. Also, give it some better ornaments, because this thing is ugly. But yeah, this is an example of a helmet it's not horrible. It's just there's a lot of things that outclass it, and I think adding ignitions, and then add another thing here. Add one more. I would say solar ignitions deal increased damage. Okay, we're already building into solar. We might as well just throw that on top of it. But yeah, Capris Horn. It's nothing flashy, nothing fancy, but it doesn't see a lot of play. And I think that those changes will help it. Moving on, Helmsame 14. Okay, now this one's interesting, because in Destiny 1, this helmet was an absolute powerhouse. It was a godsend to players. So, its exotic perk here, Starless Knight, targets that enter Ward of Dawn are blinded, while allies that pass through gain a void overshield. Guarding with Sentinel Shield blinds nearby targets. So this is one of those ones. It looks good, it sounds great, and it is wonderful in practice. But the big issue that we have here, it is a super based exotic. And as we kind of all know, when you have super based exotics, people don't use them except for when they're about to use their super. Okay, so the reason this doesn't see use in high level content is because you can't switch your gear over. That's okay. Okay, that's okay. I do have an idea of a way that you can fix it, but with this one, it's already very strong. I don't think it needs much. It needs something, though. Just like all the other super base exotics, it needs something to improve its neutral game. And what I think with this one, I think one of two things, not both, but one of two things needs to happen. Number one, I think that when you have a void overshield, or when you're behind your barricade, kills while behind the barricade give the barricade a faster cooldown. Okay, so it's basically, as long as you're standing behind your barricade and you're getting weapon kills, you're gonna get 10% knocked off the timer. That would be number one. The second one, when standing behind the barricade. When standing behind the barricade, you get a much faster overshield recharge. So of course, as you know, when you put down a barricade, you instantly get an overshield. But as that overshield goes away, it comes back very, very slowly. And I think with this exotic, you know, it should be at least doubled, maybe even tripled. Okay, essentially similar to a healing rift. Maybe not tripled, maybe doubled. But essentially, you know, something similar to a healing rift, where you're constantly getting that overshield back. And I think that would immediately improve the amount of usage you see from this helmet. It is a good helmet. Okay. In Destiny 1 it was better. Okay, because in Destiny 1 you didn't have Armor of Light base kit. Okay, you had weapons, you had blessing, and you had armor, and most players chose blessing. Okay, so this helmet would give you blessing and weapon, or I'm sorry, this helmet would give you blessing, and you could choose weapons, but you still, like, the reason why it was so good was because enemies that entered were blinded. That would keep you alive, and now you have Armor of Light, so it's not as necessary. But I think that making those changes to having your actual barricade would tremendously help this helmet see a use in high level activities. Let's go on to the next one. Eternal Warrior. Okay, so this is similar to the other one. This is a super only exotic. Okay, this is an exotic that's you're not going to use when you're not in super, because all it does is gain an overshield when activating Fist of Havoc. Now, this one I think could actually do well with something similar to Doomfang pauldrons, in which getting arc melee kills gives you additional super energy, like 25% super energy. Not, mind you, not knockout kills, because I know that somebody's gonna say, oops, my light fell, sorry. I know that somebody's gonna say, well, what about knockout? Like, you get a kill with it, you get 25% super energy, you have knockout active, which knockout is technically an arc charged melee. I think that it should be limited to just the like, you know, the cooldown melee, just the shoulder charge, just the ballistic slam, just the thunder crash. That would definitely help this exotic to see additional play. But I think that it needs just a little bit more, because again, it is a super based exotic. I think that the other thing that should happen is the overshield. You know, you gain an overshield when activating Fist of Havoc. I think that's getting an arc, or getting an overshield when you get an arc melee kill would also improve this weapon or this armor piece's efficacy. Okay, and I think it should be timed. I don't think that we should have an infinite, you know, infinite loop of, oh, you get constant overshield after overshield after overshield. It's something similar to, like, you know, you get a melee kill for 20 seconds, you get an overshield. Okay, that overshield doesn't recharge. You can't reproc it. Once it's gone, it's, you know, you're on a cooldown for whatever the rest of the timer is, because arc is not the overshield based subclass. That's primarily void and a little bit of stasis. But I think that it would definitely help this exotic, and I think it would help players choose this exotic, because it's like, hey, you know, I'm running into here, I've got it, so I'm gonna get overshield when I activate Fist of Havoc, but I've also got this additional benefit that helps me when I'm not in super. But that's really all I would change for the Eternal Warrior. Moving on to the One-Eyed Mask. One-Eyed Mask is definitely one of the more used exotic in the Crucible. So, this exotic perk, Vengeance, highlights targets who dares to damage you. Highlights the target, sorry, who dares to damage you. Track down and destroy them for an overshield. So, this is an exotic that is primarily used in PvP. Okay, so with that being said, we have to be thinking primarily about PvP when adjusting this. Now, in the past, it was absolutely busted. When you killed the person who damaged you, you got full health and a full overshield, and you could infinitely chain it. So you could go through 6-man kills. You get 7th columns very, very easily because you were basically unkillable. As long as you could kill the person who was shooting at you, you would get full health and overshield. Of course, this was also the time when Recluse was deadly, but now it still highlights through walls. But the overshield is one that slowly generates. This is an example of an exotic that I think is actually very, very balanced in PvP. Pardon me. I think that in PvE, it would be nice to see some type of buff. And this is one, it's not really a PvE exotic, so I'm not really exactly sure, but some type of buff to the damaging the target or killing the target that attacks. You know, if the target is a combatant, you get additional super energy, or you get, you know, 10% of your ability energies back or something like that. But other than that, I wouldn't touch this too much because it is already in a good spot. And I say it's in a good spot because it's, you know, if you attack somebody who has this helmet on, they just kill your teammates and that was their marked targets. They're going to start health regeneration, but they're not going to get just instantly full health in an overshield. You can still attack and kill them. So yeah, I would not touch this one too much. But let's go on to the next one, which is Precious Scars. Okay. So Precious Scars is an interesting one. Its exotic perk is Kintsugi. Final blows from weapons with a damage type matching your subclass energy create a burst of healing around you. After reviving or being revived, you gain an aura that provides overshields to you and nearby allies. So, to break this down, when you get weapon kills that match your subclass, you create bursts of healing. Which sounds really, really good. And really, it's not a horrible thing, but it's not enough. First of all, final blows, it's not every final blow. It should say something along the lines of final blows have an increasing chance or something like that, because I think it takes like 7 final blows against red bar enemies before that healing aura actually activates, which is a lot. And I think that it could definitely benefit from a lower amount of those. But of course, the overshield you get from being revived, we'll talk about that, because this is an interesting exotic that has 2 parts, one for PvE and one for PvP, in my opinion. So first part, final blows from weapons with same damage type matching your subclass. I think that it needs to be changed so that every other kill, or hell, every kill that you get will provide a burst of healing. This is a support exotic. This is a Titan support exotic. And it's very important that we play into that idea of support. So, yeah, every kill you get with matching subclass energy and weapon energy will start healing around you. Now, importantly, I don't know exactly how this performs. I can't remember if it heals you as well or if it just heals the people around you. But the healing is, if I'm not mistaken, the healing is like Restoration 1, basically. It's the level of healing that you get from Restoration 1, which, again, not bad, but it's not bad. It just, the helmet just needs to see more play. After being revived or reviving somebody, you gain an aura that provides overshields to you and nearby allies. That is a pretty easy one. I think that currently the way it works is there's a timer on it, right? There's a timer, and after you revive somebody, or after you're revived, that timer, I think it's like 10 seconds or something like that. Anybody around you and yourself gets an overshield. As long as y'all stay together, that overshield will stay persistent for that 10, or maybe it's 12. Maybe it's 12 seconds. I think that should change so that it's not timed in PvE. I know that sounds difficult, but I think Bungie could do it But when you're revived in PvE, as long as you're sticking close to everybody, that overshield should exist until it's broken or gone. And of course, in high level content, it'll be gone in seconds. But, you know, I think that's what needs to happen with it. Other than that, yeah, that was the only change. I'd say increase the amount of final, or decrease the amount of final blows, or make it, you know, every single final blow starts healing around you. And then after being revived in PvE or reviving somebody in PvE, that overshield is persistent until it is broken. And that's Precious Scars. Okay. Oh, the Lorelei Splendor. So this is going to be possibly one of the first exotics on the list that I don't think need any positive changes to it. In fact, this helmet might need a nerf because it doesn't leave breathing room for anybody else. But yeah, let's talk about it. Cauterizing Flame. When you are critically wounded with full class ability energy, or when you cast a barricade, you'll create a sunspot at your location that has improved restoration effects. So this is probably one of the most popular Solar Titan exotics in the game. And in fact, we go over here. I have it. I mean, I have it on right now. It is very, very good. It is very, very good. And that is kind of an issue. So how would I change the Lorelei Splendor helm? It's a tough one because I want to say nerf it, but I don't know how you'd nerf it. I think the only real way to nerf it, so to speak, is number one, increase the barricade cooldown to something similar to Bastion levels of cooldown. That would be one option. Or the second option is anytime you're standing in a sunspot, you don't regenerate class ability. Or I'm sorry, anytime you have Sun Warrior active, you do not regenerate class ability energy. These two changes, one of these two changes, I think would be enough to push it down kind of off the top and bring others up. And it sucks because I love this helmet. It is incredibly good. It looks absolutely amazing. I mean, look at this thing. Good night. That looks so good. But it does, I think it is in need of a nerf because it suffocates everything. So yeah, those two changes I think are really the only two changes that you would want to make to it. It still feeds into the idea of, you know, class ability, energy, and health regeneration. And I think even at that, if you made those changes, you could actually give it a buff on top of it. Because used to it would give you restoration times 2. Now it only gives you restoration times 1. If you increase the barricade cooldown, or made it where you can't regenerate your barricade energy while you have Sun Warrior, it would be fine to give it improved restoration effects. Actual improved restoration effects, which is restoration times 2. Because I don't know why they left the word improved here. They should have just taken that out. But yeah, that's Lorelei Splendor and the nerf that's I think it should get. On to the next one. ACD/0 feedback fence. Alright. This one's exotic perk, Fury Conductors. Hits build melee energy. Being struck by a melee attack reduces incoming damage and unleashes the energy in a devastating explosion. So these are anti-melee gauntlets. Now, first of all, melee hits build energy. This is a little bit misleading, okay? When you punch an enemy, you do not get melee energy back. When you punch an enemy, it builds up stacks, essentially. Up to 3 stacks. Then, when you are hit by a melee, it will unleash those 3 stacks, and depending on the number of stacks, 1, 2, or 3, unleash a devastating explosion around you. That it can hit pretty hard, that's for sure. Now, of course, the other thing that it does is it reduces incoming damage. This is one. It's really good. It is a really good exotic. The problem is it is solely based around being hit by melees. And you don't see it in high level content because more often than not, being hit by a melee in high level content is fatal. Okay. And in high level content, you're typically staying back from the enemies. Melee hits building energy. Let's talk about that first. I think it's a little bit confusing. First of all, it needs to say when you attack an energy with a melee, it builds energy. But anyways, melee hits build energy. I think that's fine. I think I would almost say that they should actually build into giving you melee energy back. So if you are running a Striker Titan and you use your shoulder charge and your shoulder charge is on cooldown, you can go and you can punch enemies, and every single time you punch an enemy, it would give you like 10% of your melee energy back. That alone would probably bring it up much higher into the thing, but let's keep talking about it here. Then being struck by a melee attack reduces incoming damage and unleashes the energy in a devastating explosion. This, in my opinion, I think that it should reduce incoming melee damage. Not just being hit by a melee attack reduces damage. I think that it should just in general reduce melee damage. Okay. And again, that would help it tremendously, because at that point, if it's reducing melee damage, it is making you harder to kill by melee energy. Or by melee based enemies like Thrall, like Wretches, stuff like that. So in a Grandmaster Nightfall, you could run to the fray and start punching things. You punch things, you're building up energy, you shoulder charge into a group of enemies. As you punch things, you're getting melee energy back. You're also taking reduced damage from being attacked. These would be the ultimate like punch game exotics. I think that'd be the only change, really. Give it so that when you punch enemies, you actually get melee energy back. And of course, just flat out a reduction to all incoming melee damage would be the most optimal change for these. But other than that, I think that I don't think there's anything else to change about them. Let's go on to Doomfang Pauldron. Now, there was a time and a day when Doomfang Pauldrons were absolutely king. Okay, these things were nutty. Let's talk about the perk. Horns of Doom. Void melee kills give super energy. While Sentinel Shield is active, melee kills recharge shield throw. And then shield throws extend your super on hits. Like I said, back in the day, these things were absolutely insane. Okay, they could knock... you could have a super that lasted basically forever. I think since then they've been toned down so they don't give as much back. But they're still not a terrible option to use. It's just there's better. Let's talk about how we could change them to bring them up. So void melee kills give super energy. First of all, this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is like 20% melee energy, 20 or 25% melee energy on a void melee kill. Now, very, very important, the melee kill has to be either a shield bash or a shield throw. And I think with shield throw, it only works on one enemy. So once the shield kills an enemy, it can't bounce off multiple enemies and give basically your full super. I don't know, but I think they've since nerfed it, brought it down a little bit so it doesn't give you as much super energy. But I think it needs to be brought back up to give you more. These are an exotic that are built, number one, around using your super, and number two, around getting your super back quickly. So I think that void melee kills should go back to giving you, 20-25% of your super. Now, while Sentinel Shield is active, melee kills recharge a shield throw, which extends the super on hits. That's actually a very, very good perk. The main issue with this exotic, the reason why you don't see it very much, is of course because roaming supers are terrible. And this is going to be an example of a time when I wouldn't say anything else needs to change about it other than one and done supers need to be nerfed, or roaming supers need to be buffed. But yeah, the void melee kills need to give more super energy. And you could throw on just a simple easy perk such as like the Ophidian Aspect perk, you get faster reload on your void weapons or something like that, just to give it a slight bit more utility. But yeah, that's Doomfang Pauldron. On to Synthoseps. Synthoseps. I remember a time when Synthoseps were easily the best exotic in the game back in the earliest days of D1. Biotic enhancements: increase melee lunge range, improve melee and super damage when you're surrounded. So what does this mean? Number one, it maxes out your melee lunge range to something similar to knockouts. Okay, it doesn't stack with knockout, but it will make your base melee reach as far as a knockout melee, which is tremendous. Of course, it also improves melee and super damage when you're surrounded. This is also very good. However, these are some exotics that suffer from, the issue of there's just been more powerful things added to the game. All it does is basically improve your melee. I think that we need to see another situation of adding another melee ability to these. Okay, I think that adding another, mini hammer, or another shield throw, or another shield bash, or another whatever the stasis melee is to this would actually substantially increase their viability. Because here's the thing, the increased melee lunge, that's more of a PvP thing, to be fair, but the improved melee and super damage when surrounded, it's a substantial amount. It is a substantial amount more damage when you are, when you're surrounded, or while your super is active and you're using your super. So I don't think any change needs to be seen there. Now, I do think that there needs to be something else added to them to help with the fantasy of melees being present. And I think that potentially adding something where when you get melee kills, you generate melee energy. And I know I've said that on a couple of exotics, but again, imagine, you're using, I don't know, whatever your favorite subclass is. You're going off, you're punching everything in sight. As you're getting punch kills, you're regenerating your melee energy. You're starting health regen if you're on whatever subclass, arc subclass or void subclass too. I think that would be, that would be a solid change for it, because these are good. They're just not good enough anymore. If you want to go crazy, you could always improve the damage so it can one punch in people. That's obviously debatable. But yeah, that's Synthoseps. I like these exotics a lot. They had a close place in my heart back in early D2. In the Crucible especially, but Synthoseps. Okay, Aeon Safe. Aeon Safe is one of the exotics that let's see, which one is it? It is yeah, here you go. Sect of Insight. Sect of Insight right here. These are exotic where Sect of Insight is obviously like, it's perfect where it is. It is perfect. It sees play in high level content. It doesn't see as much play in low level content, but I think that's specifically because the design of this perk is, finishing a champion or a mini boss. Which there's not many champions and mini bosses in lower level content. But I think that this is actually fine where it is, or at least the Sect of Insight. Now, the other ones, I don't even remember these because they're not memorable. Okay, Sect of Force, rapid precision hits with a weapon, rapid precision hits with a weapon temporarily increase your reload speed and weapon swap speed. When you stun a champion or defeat a mini-boss / boss, your nearby fire team members gain a burst of grenade and melee energy. Okay. And then Aeon Cult allies who do not have the Sect of Force role equipped also gain a burst of super energy. And then the other one, Sect of Vigor. Gain class ability energy as your allies die. Gain full class ability energy when you resurrect an ally. When you cast your super, nearby allies gain an instant burst of healing. Aeon cults allies who do not have the Sective Vigor also gain an overshield. And of course, we'll just go ahead and read this one to keep everything in line here. Sective Insight, successive precision hits or precision weapon takedowns have a chance to drop an orb of power for your allies. When you use a finisher on an elite, you generate special ammo, and when you finish a boss or mini-boss, you generate heavy ammo. Nearby cult allies who do not have the Sective Insight role equipped also gain a bonus to weapon damage for a time. So these exotics are super interesting because these exotics, the Aeon exotics, all three classes have them. They all look very similar across all three classes, and they all have, you know, this interchangeable exotic perks here. And they all, like, the point of this is you and your team want to be using them, okay? And each person wants to be using a different role so that everybody's getting, you know, a different amount of stuff. They're neat. They do great things. I think the biggest problem you have is nobody wants to play in a team-oriented setting. Okay, for example, this one, you know, it gives an overshield to those who don't have Sective Vigor, which means that somebody's going to have to use Sective Force, which Sective Force doesn't sound very fun, doesn't sound very good. You know, or somebody who's using Sective Insight, which most people want to use Sective Insight for the heavy ammo on champion finishers. Nobody wants to use the other two because this is, you know, this is the best one. You could literally have 3 people using Aeon Safe, any of them finishing a champion and making heavy, or you could get what an overshield when you cast your super. It's not, oops, sorry. It does not warrant these two, the Sective Vigor and Sective Force do not warrant usage. How would I go about changing these? That's a difficult one. This is a tough one. This might be the one exotic that I don't know how to change because part of it is so good, so very good, and the other two are not good. And you could always just select Sective Insights, and I wouldn't even second guess it. Yeah, I would say maybe, and again, Sective, like that first one there, not a bad roll. Same with this one, rapid precision hits with a weapon, increase reload speed. Like that's not bad. That's not bad. I don't know. This is one that's it's great and it's terrible at the same time. I really can't think of anything else to change about Aeon Safe. Ashen Wake. Okay, Ashen Wake here. Ashen Wake. Exotic perk, Bring the Heat. Fusion grenades now explode on impact and gain increased throw speed. Final blows with fusion grenades grant grenade energy. Now, if I'm not mistaken, these exotics also have a bonus perk where they make fusion grenades deal more damage. In which, if you are in the Crucible and you throw a fusion grenade and you hit an enemy with it, it will instantly kill them. Which is great. But let's talk about PvE here. Fusion grenades now explode on impact and gain increased throw speed. The issue I have with fusion grenades is fusion grenades have always been essentially a sticky grenade. Their blast radius is nowhere near as big as something like an incendiary grenade. So the chance of getting, you know, multi-kills with a fusion grenade in PvE, unless it's a group of thrall that are very, very bunched up, not going to happen. Okay? It's not going to happen. Don't get me wrong, it's cool to have fusion grenades explode on impact. I think that's a great addition to this exotic. And of course, increased throw speed is nice too, but fusion grenades are kind of weak as it is. I think that to change these, you would want to change fusion grenades when using this exotic. Change fusion grenades so that they have a larger area of effect. You know, a larger area of effect so that you don't have to hit an enemy directly with it. You can, you know, if a group of thralls running it, you can throw it at their feet, you know, or slightly in front of them, and it can still kill 1 or 2 that are running at you. Final blows with fusion grenades grant grenade energy. This is also good. It's just in PvE, the grenade energy that's granted is a little bit too low. I think it's like 10%. Meaning you would need 10 kills with 1 grenade to realistically get your grenade back. And I don't agree with that. I think that it should be 25% for enemies. And of course, bigger enemies like majors and stuff like that should grant more energy. But final blows with fusion grenades grant grenade energy. It should be increased so that when you get final blows with, you know, if you can get 4 final blows with your fusion grenades, you get your grenade back. I also think a huge thing would be similar to Starfire Protocol. You need an extra fusion grenade charge. That feels like it needs to happen for it to be anywhere near useful. So change I would make, of course, adding an additional fusion grenade charge, increasing the amount of grenade energy you get for final blows with fusion grenades, and of course increasing the blast radius of fusion grenades. I think that would bring them up to a much better spot. Worm God's Caress. This exotic used to be perfect. It used to be perfect. No, not perfect, but it used to be very, very good. Melee kills increase melee damage for a period of time. Additional kills extend the duration and increase the effects. It used to stack up to 7.5 times damage, which of course was insane. It eventually got nerfed down to 3.5 times damage, which, yeah. Got a substantial nerf. I don't see these being useful unless they brought that damage back up to the 7.5 times timer, or the 7.5 times damage. Or the other thing they could potentially do is increase the timer from 5 seconds to at least 7, but preferably 10. And I think that would help tremendously, because this thing used to be able to like one punch yellow bar, or not yellow bars, orange bars in like Grandmaster content if you get the stacks up, which is crazy, but they've since been nerfed. So number 1, increase the damage back to 7.5 times, or number 2, increase the timer to at least 7 seconds, but preferably 10 seconds, so it gives players time to get between the kills. That's the only change I would make to these ugly gauntlets. Let's go on to the next one. Ursa Furiosa. So Ursa Furiosa, not a bad exotic. I think that when Void 3.0 came out, it was a lot stronger. But since the other subclasses came out and Void is just generally weaker than the other subclasses, we could probably see some change here. It's exotic perk, Ursine Guard. Move faster while guarding with a Sentinel Shield. And guarded damage converts to super energy when the super ends. So this is another one, super only. It's very, very good, but it's super only. When I put this on and I go to use it in, you know, master level content, it doesn't do anything for me until I get my super charged up. And again, we've seen some play. Astrocross made a video, you know, a couple seasons ago about how important it is to do a strike with this, you know, with the Ursa Furiosa Titan on your team, and it was good. The problem is it needs more. If we want to see it more present in the game, it needs more than just the super stuff. What I think should happen here is change. And this might be a hot take, but I think it should change your barricade to a short duration overshield, or not overshield, a shield, similar to the super, right? When you pop it for say 10 seconds, for 10 seconds you have a shield up, you know, that you're holding on your hand. You can't shoot or anything, but you have a shield on your hand, and your class ability is gone. And the shield is similar to, not the banner shield, but the other, or well, actually, no, never mind. There's only banner shield now. But think about the old Sentinel Titan that wasn't banner shield, how it had kind of more of a roundish shield. Do something like that for 10 seconds that blocks a substantial amount of damage, similar to like the glaive, for example. You know, it blocks 97.5% of damage for 10 seconds. This could allow you to go get revives. It could allow you to, you know, activate, various objectives. You know, if you're holding a plate, it could give you 10 seconds of breathing room or something like that. I think that would be a fantastic rework to this exotic. It would make it, I mean, it'd make it pretty cool. You know, instead of putting a wall down, you just hold your arm up, and there's this big circle around you that just blocks incoming damage. I think that'd be fantastic, and that's the only change I would make about or about Ursa Furiosa. Is giving that, you know, changing that barricade over to, you know, a deployable shield that you can walk with. Can't sprint with it, but you can walk around with it, and it blocks damage in front of you. Yeah, that'd be the only change I'd make to that. Okay, Stronghold. So Stronghold is in an interesting spot. Stronghold is S tier if you're using a sword, and it's F tier if you're not. I actually would not make any changes to Stronghold. And this might be the first exotic I say, Titan exotic I should say, that I don't think needs any changes at all, because if you know how to block, if you know how to time your blocks, this is the only exotic that will make you truly invincible in game. I do have a build on my Titan where I use Lament and this exotic, and it's insane. It truly is. Clinch Fist, sorry, I should read it. Clinch Fist maximizes guard stats on all equipped swords. Shots blocked immediately after guarding will heal you. When it says heal you, it doesn't talk about health regeneration. It instantly gives you full health. So you can essentially, and even in Grandmaster content, just stand there. As long as you can time your blocks right, you're literally invincible, which is kind of crazy. I would say actually the only change I might make with this is give it some functionality with the glaive as well. You know, maybe, you know, I don't know, grants bonus melee damage, you know, when blocking with a glaive, or it's the same thing, you know, shots blocked immediately after guarding will heal you. Allow that functionality with glaive as well. And then same thing, maximize the guard stat on the glaive. That's it. But really, if you left out the glaive, this exotic is just fine where it is. Just fine. That's Stronghold. Titan's Ramparts. This is a PvP exotic, obviously. It's an exotic perk here, Assault Barricade. You and your allies can shoot through your towering barricade, which has reduced health and duration. This exotic, a few weeks ago, saw massive usage in the Crucible. Massive usage. You know, you'd have Titans just sitting behind it all the time, chilling, sitting behind it, shooting through it, stuff like that. They had since nerfed it. And really, when Bungie nerfed it, they changed it exactly how I think it should have been changed. So this is one I think that its recent nerf is fresh enough that I agree with it. I think that's the one thing I would revert is the amount of health that it has. They increase basically what they did. They increased the cooldown on it. They increased it by 70%. So now it takes forever to get it back. You know, if you're using Void and you're trying to use Bastion and this at the same time, your barricade is literally going to take as long as a Warlock Rip to come back. It's kind of ridiculous. But basically, what they did, they nerfed the cooldown on it, and they nerfed how much health it has. It has like almost 0 health. Like I think one burst from Bastion can tear it down, which is, and I don't think it takes full burst. I think it takes just 2 now. It's had its damage reduced by a lot. I think it could use some buffing, because I think that they kind of nerfed it into the ground. The primary thing that I would do is just take off the reduced health aspect of it, you know, or take off the reduced duration, you know, and then revert the health, the barricade health change they made just a few weeks ago, and that would be appropriate for this. But yep, that's Titan's Rampart. Let's go on to the next one. Icefall Mansel. Okay, Icefall Mansel. So, Glacial Guard replaces your barricade ability with a personal overshield. When you activate your barricade, you create a burst around yourself that slows combatants. While you have the overshield, you are slowed and the barricade does not recharge. This exotic is actually very, very good, but you don't see it very often. And I think the primary reason why is because it substantially slows you down. You can't double jump with it. You can't sprint with it. And if you're rocking max resilience, you're walking at walking speed. Everywhere you go, you're walking at walking speed. And for what? You get an overshield, albeit a stronger overshield. It's stronger than the void overshield, I'm pretty sure. Unfortunately, it's not where it needs to be. Also, the barricade doesn't recharge while this is active. The last part there, barricade does not recharge while it's active. That needs to go. That can be just totally stripped of this exotic ability, and that would be a great start. I think that the speed in which you move could also be increased. I would say you can't sprint, but you can walk at a reasonable walking speed, maybe like the equivalent of like a tier 7 or tier 8 mobility walking speed. And same thing with the jump, like, you know, have a tier 7 or tier 8 mobility jump height. That way you can still get around and it doesn't feel so sluggish, but you're not, you know, running and charging into battle like, you know, an insane person with a strong overshield. And that's all I'd change on it. I would increase the speed, the movement speed, and take off that last part where the barricade doesn't recharge while you have the overshield. I think that that's silly. And that's all I'd change with Icefall Mansel. I think it's actually a pretty decent exotic that just slows you down a little bit too much for Destiny's playstyle. Oh, you know what? Also, one other change I would make, when you activate your barricade, you create a burst around yourself that slows combatants. I would say it should freeze them. Yeah, I would say that burst around you should freeze targets. That's the only other change I'd make. No backup plans. When you have full void melee energy, shotgun final blows grant a void overshield and consume your melee energy. Shotgun final blows also give you melee energy. Provides a moderate benefit to airborne effectiveness stat of shotguns. So these are of course the Destiny 1 exotic that do something very similar to what they did in Destiny 1. I think the only thing that I would change here is or maybe not the only thing. I think the first thing I would change here is take off the void melee energy thing. Just when you have full melee energy, shotgun final blows grant an overshield. Not a void overshield, or hell, why not have an, you know what? No, a void overshield. It consumes your melee energy, but you get a void overshield. Shotgun final blows also give you melee energy. That's perfectly fine. And of course, the airborne effectiveness to shotguns is okay. These exotics are very, very cool. Okay, they synergize with subclasses. I mean, obviously I'm on a solar subclass right now, and you can see they're orange. They are very, very cool. They have a very niche. Sorry, lost my train of thought. They have a very niche ability, though. I think another issue why these are not widely used or widely more popular is because shotguns have very, very little ammo in PvE. And that is kind of an issue. I would say the only other change I would make besides, you know, removing the void ability energy and just making it standard melee energy, would be increasing the reserves of all shotguns so that all shotguns can have at least 25 shells. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but yeah. I mean, these are a exotic that, you know, bases himself around a very specific weapon type. They need to buff that weapon type to be more viable. And I think giving shotguns more ammo would tremendously help with that. But yeah, that's no backup plans. That's the only changes I would make to no backup plans. Second chance. Okay, second chance. These are relatively new. Exotic. Myrmidian's Reach. Gain a second charge of your shield throw melee, which becomes shield piercing and stuns barrier champions. Now, this exotic does a very, very simple thing. which gives you basically a second shield throw. It can also allow, you know, your shield to stun barrier champions, which is really, really strong. I believe this is the only exotic in the game that allows, exotic armor piece in the game, I should say, that allows for stunning champion. I don't know how I would change these. I would say the only change I'd make to these to make them more popular, more viable, would be you gain increased overshield from hitting targets. So for those who don't know, don't play Titan or something, when you throw a shield and it hits targets, those targets, or I'm sorry, you get 1/3 of your overshield. So you have to basically hit 3 targets to get a full overshield. I think that increasing the amount of overshield that you get from hitting a target should be increased to 50%. That we only have to hit 2 targets to get, you know, to get your overshield. I would also say a nice fun feature would be when you hit a target with your shield throw, you get increased reload or just something small, some kind of small weapon boost for a short amount of time after you hit that target. And yeah, that's about the only changes I would make. I think that they're really new. They do something really, really simple, which is, you know, you get a second charge of your shield throw. So I don't think too much needs to change in that regard. On to the next one. Point contact cannon brace. Oh Lord, these when they first came out and people actually could get them and use them, these were insanely busted for about, like, I don't even think it was a full week. Hammer of the Gods. Defeating targets with your Thunderclap melee restores melee energy. Targets near you when you use your Thunderclap suffer lightning strikes. Being amplified increases the range of these lightning strikes. So this is a very, very simple change. Number one, defeating targets with Thunderclap restores melee energy. It needs to give you the whole energy back. So for those who don't know, when you use point contact cannon brace and you get a melee kill, you get, like, I think you can only get up to half of your melee energy back, which is pitiful, especially when you have the Insurmountable Skullfort in the game. So this is already outclassed by that. So I think that when you defeat an enemy with Thunderclap, it needs to instantly restore your melee energy. I think another thing, if you don't defeat a target, if you hit a target with Thunderclap, it needs to give you 50% of your melee energy back. Those two things at the very least. Also, targets near you when you use your Thunderclap suffer lightning strikes. The lightning strike damage is, like, pitifully low. Like, pitifully low to the point where it can't even kill a Dreg in the EDZ or something like that. So it's so low. Being amplified increases the range of these lightning strikes. I think that the lightning strikes need to be substantial. Maybe not to the point of, like, you know, a storm grenade over your head, but they need to be maybe 75% of a storm grenade. You know, hell, I would say let it happen. Let it be basically when you use Thunderclap, you get a storm grenade just right above your head. You know, maybe not a obviously not a touch of thunderstorm grenade, but just a regular storm grenade above your head. That would fix literally all the issues that I have with this exotic, which has potential to be insanely good. Has potential to be insanely good, but it's just it's so weak right now. They nerfed it literally the week it came out, and it sees no play. So yeah, defeating enemies with Thunderclap should grant you full energy. Damaging enemies, if you don't kill any, give you half, and then the lightning strikes need to be much stronger, and they look great too. I'm not gonna lie, these exotics look very cool. So hopefully we see a change to that. Okay, next page. Crest of Alpha Loopy. This is a support exotic. I would definitely say that. But again, I think it's just kind of been power crept. So Survival Well generates an additional orb of power from supers and a healing pulse when a barricade is activated. Basically, it's primary thing, when you put a barricade down, you get like 50% of your health back. And then of course, your supers can generate one more orb of power. I think if you want to see this come back into the fold, number one, the barricade needs to full heal you and your allies when you put it down. No question about it. That's one of the things that needs to happen. I feel like this exotic, it's good. It is really good. It's really good as a support exotic. But I feel like it's missing something, and I can't place what it's missing right here. I would say probably like when you put a barricade down, it should also grant you and nearby allies small amounts of ability energy. So, you know, like maybe 10%, maybe 50, yeah, maybe 20% of your grenade, 20% of your melee, 20% of your class ability, and your allies the same thing, as well as that full health around you. And then generates an additional orb of power from supers. I think that just increases the 2 orbs of power just to bump it up a slight bit more. And you'd probably see this being used a little bit more, especially since they've increased the cooldown, all cooldowns for barricades. Yeah. Actium War Rig. Okay, again, this is one. It is S tier if you use auto rifles and machine guns. It is F tier if you don't. Steadily reloads auto loading link. Steadily reloads a portion of your equipped auto rifle or machine guns magazine from reserves. Provides moderate benefit to airborne effectiveness of auto rifles and machine guns. This is one. Basically, as you're shooting, it reloads 10% of your auto rifle or machine guns magazine every couple seconds. It is not bad by any means. I think that the reason you don't see this as much is because auto rifles are a little bit on the weaker side of things right now. Potentially, whenever we see auto rifles make a comeback, you'll see, maybe see an influx in these. But I think the real reason is it doesn't do anything incredibly insane for your auto rifles and machine guns. I think one thing, possibly the only thing I would change about this, is when you get kills or when you deal damage with an auto rifle or machine gun, you get barricade energy. You know, every single shot you land with an auto rifle or machine gun gives you 2% barricade energy. Yeah, that would help it tremendously, because then you could pair it with rally barricade and sit there and shoot auto rifles forever. And that's I think that's the only change I'd really make with auto loading link. And then of course, somebody could pair it with Bastion, and you get a much faster Bastion cooldown. Oh, auto rifles 2%, machine guns dealing damage to machine guns even 5% of your barricade energy back. If they made that change, I would probably, as long as there's anti-champion mods for auto rifles, I would probably be using this a lot more often. Also, can we appreciate the Grant's Vicksburg or whatever ornament for this? Anyways, yeah, that is Actium War Rig. Hello Fire Hearts. Hello Fire Hearts. Okay. So this exotic perk, Sunfire Furnace, improves the recharge of your solar abilities. Just flat improvement. Provides or greatly improves recharge rates while your super is charged, and provides a small benefit to the airborne effectiveness of all weapons. So I think this is one of the only exotics in the game that actually gives you a benefit to all weapons. Airborne effectiveness benefit to all weapons. The problem with this exotic is that Heart of Inmost Light exists, and we're going to get to Heart of Inmost Light here in just a moment. So first of all, basically you get flat ability cooldown increases. I don't know the exact percentage. I probably should have looked it up before we started, but it's noticeable. I definitely say it's noticeable. And then of course, when your super is charged, your recharge rate is substantially better. Now, I think that arguably this exotic is better in this sandbox than it's going to be next sandbox, or in future sandboxes, because right now roaming supers are on the weaker end, and there's not really a great point in using them. So when you slap on solar, you can basically just sit on your super and not really miss out, and get, you know, bonuses to all your abilities. I think the primary issue, like I said, with this is that there are other abilities that exist, or there are other exotics that exist that improve ability recharge and stuff like that. The primary one that comes to mind, of course, is Heart of Insight. Now, how would we go about changing this particular exotic? Number one, improve the recharge rate of solar abilities. I think, me personally, I think that it should, and this might be a hot take, but I think that discipline should be, as discipline and strength should be basically maxed out at tier 10. I also think that your barricades cooldown should be maxed out at tier 10. Regardless of the stats that you choose to put into this, they should all be maxed out at tier 10. And I know that sounds like a lot. That sounds, oh my god, like, that sounds crazy. But at the same time, that's basically all it would do. And then, of course, whenever you get your super recharge, it would, you know, cool them down substantially quicker. Now, PvE and PvP, big difference here. Obviously, in PvP, we'd want a much slower cooldown rates than we have in PvE. But in PvE, you know, why not? Really, why not? I don't see an issue with giving all of your abilities tier 10. Okay, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that turns out to be bad. But, you know, first thing, improve the recharge rate of solar abilities. Tier 10 discipline, tier 10 strength. I don't think tier 10 resilience would be the play. I think that keep resilience, whatever, but give your barricade cooldown a tier 10 resilience cooldown. And that's about the only changes I would make for Hellfire Hearts. I think if you did that, you would see substantial amounts of play, especially when your supers recharge. If you could literally see that thing, and it's like, okay, this grenade's going to be back in about 8 seconds. Pardon me, I got to sneeze. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, Sunfire Furnace, that's all I'd change. Or Hellfire Heart, sorry. All I change. Armamentarium. Oh, this is beautiful. And another thing, gain an additional grenade charge. All it does is give you another grenade charge. First thing I would do is allow it to stack with Touch of Thunder lightning grenades, so you can carry 3 lightning grenades instead of just 2. But other than that, this is one, it's so simple, yet it's so good. Again, though, the problem that we have is Heart of Inmost Light exists, and why would I have 2 grenades when I could throw one that deals more damage and then get that grenade back very, very quickly after throwing it. I think that's the only change you'd make to this. Grenade kills, grant grenade energy. That is it. Okay, grenade kills, grant grenade energy. And yeah, I think that would put it in a good spot. That's the Armamentarium. Oh, sorry. This dang light keeps falling off. Okay, on to the next one. Heart of Inmost Light. Beautiful. This is the one that needs a nerf. This is taking over the game right now. Every Titan and his mother is using it. Now, it's always been good, but I think that it's just kind of been amplified over the past few seasons, and especially with Arc 3.0 and Touch of Thunder. It has, you know, it's just kind of spread to now Solar and Void subclasses as well. But its exotic perk, Overflowing Light, using an ability, Grenade, Melee, or Barricade, empowers the other 2 abilities. Empowered means abilities have faster regen, melees and grenades do more damage, and barricades have more hit points. There is one change that I think should happen to this to make it, to bring it in line. And that is take out the faster regeneration. Take out the faster regeneration. The problem we have in the current sandbox is players can use 4 what are they called? 4 elemental ordnance mods and get 40% of their grenade back immediately after throwing their grenade. Then they can use thruster, which has like a 10-second cooldown, and gets, you know, an insane grenade recharge rate. I mean, I was doing that in King's Fall, back when it first came out, and against the War Priest, no issue whatsoever, having a grenade literally for every single engagement. So I think that removing that faster regen and just making grenades and melees do more damage and barricades have more hit points would bring this down in line. Would it make it unusable? I'm sure that some people would probably say, oh yeah, it would. But I think that's kind of a reaction to, they're so used to using it and they're so used to ability spamming with it, that would be, you know, a reactionary response. But after it's, you know, gone and there's breathing room, people would kind of cool down. At the very least, I would decrease the faster regen by like half, you know, so that you can't get it so very fast, you know, so that you can't literally, I remember when I used this, I could literally always have 2 of my abilities empowered at all times. Okay, I could always, in fact, I think using one of the sparks in Arc 3.0, the one that makes it where you when you're sprinting, your class ability cools down faster. You could literally have ×2 empowered grenades at all times. Okay, and you would have your grenade back to throw every 10 seconds. That's a bit much. That is a bit much. So I think that either reducing or removing the faster regen would just bring this back down in line. And yeah, that's the only change I would make to Heart of Inmost Light. Everybody's beloved chess piece. What a cool ornament. All right, let's go on to Severance Enclosure. I think, I'm sorry, Severance Enclosure. I kind of bullied this one a lot in my video the other day. But it's exotic perk, Spheromatic Trigger. Powered melee final blows unleash a damaging explosion. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius and damage of the explosion. So this exotic, it suffers from, is it, sorry, I had to see if there was an ornament. I thought there was. It suffers from the problem that it's way too weak in high level content. So first of all, powered melee final blows unleash a damaging explosion. The damaging explosion is, number one, not very high. Okay, it is a low damage explosion. In fact, I think once you hit like legend level content, it no longer one hits other enemies, like weak enemies like dregs and thralls, stuff like that. Yeah, you can pair it with solar, you know, the solar throwing hammer for an infinite number of those explosions, but they're so very weak. And of course, finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius and damage of the explosion. Yes, if you finish a champion, it is a lot bigger and it is more powerful. But again, it's not. Here's what I think needs to change about it. We'll just talk about that, okay? I think it needs to get the Bombardier's treatment. Okay, depending on your subclass, it needs to either scorch enemies. The explosion, that is. The explosion needs to scorch enemies, needs to blind enemies, it needs to suppress enemies, or it needs to slow enemies. And I think that's the only change that I would make. That would definitely bring it up in content, especially because you can make it synergize, you know, Void 3.0, you suppress targets and then use collective obligation or something. There you go, you know. But yeah, I think that's the only, the other change I would make, the damaging explosion needs to deal more damage. I think that just increasing the base explosion damage is definitely something that's kind of necessary. Other than that, though, I think that once you do that, it would be in a much better place. It'd be fine. I think it would see use in high level content, stuff like that. But yeah, that's Severance Enclosure. On to Cuirass of the Falling Stars. So when Arc 3.0 first came out, or I'm sorry, when this chess piece first came out, it was absolutely insane. It still is absolutely insane, but you know, we've kind of seen Heart of Inmost Light take over from it. But its exotic perk here, Glorious Charge, greatly increases your Thunder Crash impact damage. Also gain an overshield that lasts longer the further you travel before striking a target. So, basically this makes your Thunder Crash deal double damage, which is a lot of damage, but this is one of those super based exotics. It's an exotic that only works when you have your super ready. Let's see here. How would I change this? I would say add something with Ballistic Slam. Okay, I would say that maybe the Ballistic Slam automatically jolts targets. I think that'd be a pretty fair trade-off. You know, then when you defeat jolted targets, and then add another thing, defeating jolted targets grants additional super energy or something like that, just to give this armor piece something that would help it outside of just using the super. Or, you know, when you Thunder Crash, you gain health. You know, you get overshield when activating Thunder Crash. Or not Thunder Crash, sorry, Ballistic Slam. And I think that would help this exotic a lot. But yeah. Give it some sort of something to help Ballistic Slam. And yeah, that's Curus the Falling Star. Hoarfrost Z. Now, this is actually a very, very solid exotic. I think that it's underused because Stasis on Titan is just underused, but it's a very, very good exotic, especially when you pair it with certain fragments and aspects. But its exotic perk here is Glacial Fortification. When using the Stasis subclass, your barricade becomes a wall of stasis crystals that slows nearby targets when created. Standing behind this barricade will grant you and your allies increased weapon reload speed, stability, and range. Okay, so basically it changes your wall into a bunch of stasis crystals. There are 4 that are tall stasis crystals, and there's one short one in the middle. And basically, when you stand behind it, you get the effects of a rally barricade. This synergizes phenomenally, absolutely phenomenally with stasis. I don't think it is in any need for a buff because with stasis, it's great. It's one of those ones. If you're using stasis, it is S tier. If you're not using stasis, it's not at all, you know, good in any way. Now, of course, it is in direct competition with Heart of Inmost Light, which if Heart of Inmost Light got a buff, this wouldn't need to see any change at all. I don't think any change at all, because yeah, you put on Rally Barricade, you get your wall of stasis crystals back in like 14 or 16 seconds, something crazy like that. It's good, especially when you pair it with Glacial Harvest and stuff like that. But yeah, that is Hoarfrost. I really wouldn't change anything about it because it's already very, very in a very good spot. Lion Rampant. Okay, Lion Rampant. So this is I hate rating this and saying what changes need to happen because this is a movement changing exotic. It provides additional aerial maneuverability and enables accurate hipfire when you're in the air during lift. Provides a large benefit to airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons while hip firing. I think it's fine where it's at, honestly. This is again, this is a movement based exotic. I don't see any changes being necessary from it. And yeah, that's all I got to say about Lion Rampant. Let's see here. Peacekeepers. Okay. Mecha Holster. Reloads stowed submachine guns and allows you to ready them instantly. Improves your handling with submachine guns and your movement while wielding one. Provides a moderate benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of submachine guns. This exotic is arguably one of the strongest yet most slept on exotics in the game. Okay, and I think that the Titans are kind of slowly starting to realize their potential in the Crucible. But again, this is one, okay, if you're using an SMG, it's S tier. If you're not, it's F tier. Okay, because it only affects SMGs. I would not make any changes to this because first of all, it's a PvP based exotic. I wouldn't make any changes to it, really. I think that everything that you see here, you know, reloading them instantly, increasing handling, you're trading off an exotic slot for improvements to SMGs. I don't think it needs any changes at all. And yeah, that's Peacekeepers, one of my personal favorite exotics in the game for PvP. Dune Marchers. Okay, Dune Marchers is a very similar to Lion Rampant. These are a movement-based exotics. If you like sprinting faster, these are for you. If not, then don't use them. Linear actuators. After increases sprint speed. Sprint builds up a static charge. After melee attacking an enemy, that charge will chain damage to nearby enemies. I don't think they need any changes at all because it's a movement-based exotic. They increase your sprint speed. Every class has one that increases its sprint speed. But I definitely think that the you know, the chain lightning kind of thing is it's a nice little added benefit. But I wouldn't change these in literally any other way. Mark 44 stand-asides. Seriously, watch out. Grants an overshield when you're sprinting at full health with Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, or Shield Bash. Equipped and charged. Hits with these abilities recharge a portion of your melee energy. So basically these are kind of like a poor man's version of a poor man's all-class version of what is it called? An Insurmountable Skullfort. Basically exactly what it says. When you're running, you get a shield, you get an overshield, and when you hit enemies, you get half of your melee back. It's pretty simple. The change I would make to these to bring them up to an increased value, I think giving Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, and Shield Bash an additional charge would help tremendously. You know, then you could chain up to 3 melees together very, very easily. But also it helps them out. Why not add another one? Really, I can't remember the last time somebody would ever complain about having 2 hammer strikes or going against 2 hammer strikes, you know? I also think that it would be very, very cool to add subclass keywords to these, like when you hit oh no, never mind. So I was forget how I said that. Anyways, yeah, I think that just giving an additional shoulder charge ability charge would be perfect to bring these up to speed. I think also the overshield. I think the overshield should always activate. Oh well, hold on. Let me think. I think the overshield should always activate when you're sprinting with these. It shouldn't require you to be at full health. Like, that's silly. I know that when Bungie made these, they probably had something in mind, but at the same time, at this point, it's just give us an overshield when we're sprinting. Okay, as soon as we stop sprinting, we go to slide, go to shoot, anything like that, the overshield is gone. But anytime we start sprinting, it builds that overshield back up. Yeah, and I think that those changes would be it. I think adding another shield shoulder charge ability. Charge, I guess. A strike or bash ability charge, and then taking out the full health aspect of this. When you're sprinting with Seismic Strike, you get an overshield. Or any of those, you get an overshield. And that's the Mark 44 stand-asides. Let's go on to Antaea's Ward. Antaea's Ward. Okay, Reflective Vents. Improved slide. Sliding after sprinting for a short time reflects incoming projectiles. These ones, okay, these bad boys, definitely a PvP-based exotic. In my opinion, I don't think any change is needed. You see these a fair amount in the Crucible, and typically when you see people using these, they are very, very good, and they know how to use them very, very well. I don't think that's changing this. I don't think they need a nerf. I don't think they need a buff. I think that they're kind of fine just right where they are. And that's the Antaeus wards. On to the Peregrine Greaves. Peregrine Greaves, victory on high. Peregrine Strike. Okay, all shoulder charge abilities, Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, Shield Blast, deal bonus damage when activated in the air. Provides a small benefits. The airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons. So, basically, when you shoulder charge in the air, it does more damage. I think that these are in a pretty okay place. I think the only thing they need to do is deal more damage. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you're going to commit an entire exotic to increasing damage while shoulder charging in the air, which is sometimes not exactly the safest idea, it needs to handle whatever it's going to handle. Okay, I'm thinking, you know, when you shoulder charge a champion in Grandmaster level content, it needs to knock him down to at least 25% health. Okay. I would say also it would be fun to it'd be fun to add some sort of anti-champion mod like overload. You know, when you hit an enemy with your Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, or Shield Bash, it will, or I'm sorry, if you hit an overload champion with your Seismic Strike, Hammer Strike, or Shield Bash, it will instantly stun them. An overload champion. That'd be cool, but I think the primary thing is these need additional damage, because right now I wouldn't use them because the damage is not very good at all. It's better than what it is without it, but I think that I think it needs to be higher. More damage, add some type of anti-champion mod to it, and you would have, I think these would see an increase in play. Let's go Phoenix Cradle. We got two more here. Phoenix Cradle. Beacons of Empowerment. Soul Invictus lasts twice as long. Allies who pass through your sunspot are granted Soul Invictus and Solar Restoration. So these are a really, really fun exotic that are overshadowed by the Lorelei Splendor helm. Yeah. Soul Invictus lasts twice as long. That's great. That is really good. It used to be stronger, but still very good. And then allies who pass through the sunspot also get Soul Invictus. So basically you can stand in the sunspot and get infinite, or not infinite, but you get health regeneration, you get ability recharge, and your friends that come in there, your warlocks and hunter friends that get in there, will also get the same thing. I think the only thing that needs to change with this, they need to add some type of damage boost to it, because the Phoenix Cradle was insanely good prior to the changes that came with Solar 3.0. Okay, if you had Phoenix Cradle and you made a sunspot, everybody's dealing more damage while in the sunspot. You know, it was very strong. And yeah, you're trading off you know, more damage for Solar Restoration, but I think that giving even just a 10% damage boost would help bring these exotics back up. Okay, because they're teamwork exotics. You know, a lot of exotics that are teamwork based don't see play because players in Destiny don't benefit as much from teamwork. From helping buffing and nerfing one, or buffing and, you know, the buffing friendlies. That's it. Just buffing friendlies to warrant using a full subclass dedication to it. So yeah, Beacons of Empowerment. I think it should also grant just a 10% damage increase across the board would be great. And yeah, I think that's the only thing I would make to Phoenix Cradle. Okay, Path of the Burning Steps. All right, Solar Final Blows periodically grants you an escalating bonus to weapon damage. You are harder to freeze or slow with stasis, and when you break out, you take no damage from doing so, creating a burst of solar energy around yourself. The primary part about these is Solar Final Blows grant you an escalating bonus to weapon damage. These are kind of insane. These you can stack up. I believe you can get up to 35% damage at 4 stacks. They cap out at 4 stacks, and they get up to 35% damage. And you can activate this with any solar damage. So solar weapons, abilities, super, anything like that. Unfortunately, the bonus damage only counts towards your weapons. The whole thing with the stasis, Bungie needs to apply that to PvE. I did notice one time I was doing a strike with these boots on, and I got frozen in a crystal, and it took forever to break out, it felt like. And I remember back in the early days of the Witch Queen, you know, the Witch Queen, when Stasis first launched, and Stasis was incredible. It was incredible. No, I'm sorry. Beyond Light. Not Witch Queen, Beyond Light. When Beyond Light first came out and Stasis was incredibly busted in the Crucible, these exotics were insanely good counters because you could break out in, you know, no time at all. Now, of course, since they've changed it, I think that, you know, obviously in the Crucible, you still break out faster. But one thing, in PvE, it does not feel like you break out faster. And I feel like it should be at least 75% faster. Yeah, everything else in here, when you break out, you take no damage from doing so, and you create a burst of solar energy around yourself. Basically, it just lights things on fire around you. I would love to see that apply more effectively in PvE. And then I think also, it says you're harder to slow or freeze. I think that harder to slow is kind of a difficult one. I think that it should say something along the lines, the effects of slow are reduced. You know, when you step in, you know, you're in PvE and you step in Taken Knights, or Taken Acolytes, sorry, pool of stasis, whatever, and you step out, it should be about 1 second before you're out of freeze instead of 3 or whatever it is. And of course, harder to freeze, you know, you gain slower stacks of or you gain stacks of slower. And yeah, that is the path of Burning Steps. So that is all of the Titan exotics and how I think that's they could benefit from changes, stuff like that. Yeah, we'll probably do Warlock or Hunter tomorrow. And yeah, tell me what you think about these. Do you think that these were good changes? Do you think that you agreed with them, or there's some you disagreed with? Did you like the ideas of some nerfs I talked about, including where was it? Where is it? This one right here. You know, I want to hear y'all's thoughts on all the changes to these. And yeah, other than that, I hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I will catch y'all in the next one.